Welcome to our September 11th, 2024 Board of Douglas County Commissioners 5:30 p.m. business meeting. There are paper copies of the agenda by the door if you would like those, and the full packet is available online on our website. For tonight, we did not have a work session earlier today. We will have a consent agenda followed by general public comment, and then our regular agenda, which we have 3 items. For general public comment, given our limited time and need to have an orderly and efficient meeting, we apply certain rules regarding public comments. A recent Kansas federal court decision has provided additional clarity regarding standards for public comment. We've updated our practices accordingly. We'll do our best to enforce these rules consistently and without regard to the point of view expressed by the speaker. And those are that each speaker will be limited to a total of 3 minutes of speaking time. However, we accept public comment of any length in writing. Individual speakers may not donate unused time to other speakers, and all comments must address topics within the jurisdiction of the County Commission. We will maintain the decorum of our meeting, thereby we prohibit public comments that are threatening, aggressively hostile, or belligerent, fighting words, slander, or speech that invades the privacy of individuals, unreasonably loud, disruptive, or repetitive, or that interrupt or substantially interfere with the board's ability to conduct county business. We do reserve the right to mute or remove any speaker who violates these public comment rules. At that time, we'd ask for your full name and address for our meeting minutes and to address your comments to the Commission. Please also know that comments received by the Commission during our meetings do not necessarily represent the views of Douglas County government, but we value the input. We don't usually respond to general public comment on the spot, but if you leave your contact information with county staff, we'll try and get specific questions answered. After general public comment, we'll move to our regular agenda, and for each action item, we'll hear from staff or an applicant, followed by questions from the Commission, and then open that item for public comment relevant to that item. Once public comment is closed, we'll bring the item back to the Commission for further discussion and a vote. Lastly, a copy of this meeting will be available on the county's YouTube page and website. You may have noticed that we are missing Commissioner Kelly. He's not with us this evening, but we do have the 2 of us here and a quorum. We have a consent agenda of 3 items. Commissioner, are there any items you would wish to pull from the consent agenda for further discussion?
No.
Is there anyone here with us who would like to pull an item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Seeing none, Sarah, do we have anyone online?
We do have someone online. Melanie Kaufman, I'm going to promote you to the panel. Melanie, do you have an item you'd like to remove from the consent agenda?
Yes, 1.2, please.
1.2. Any others, Sarah?
Nope.
Okay. Commissioner, I would entertain a motion.
So Commissioner Reed, I move to approve consent agenda items 1.1 and 1.3.
Second, all in favor of the 2 of us?
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to item 1.2 for Public Works. This has been in our CIP for a long time in terms of some parking lot repairs. Sarah or Jimmy, do you have anything you'd like to address before I go to public comment?
No, Commissioners, we feel the packet outlined the item. Our Director of Buildings and Grounds, Jimmy Wilkins, and our Public Works Director is online.
Okay, Commissioner, do you have any questions before we go to public comment?
Not at this time.
All right, I know Melanie pulled this from online. I'm going to still ask in the room first. Is there anyone here in person who would like to make public comment on item 1.2 from our consent agenda? Okay, seeing none. Sarah, do we have Melanie still?
Yep.
Okay.
Melanie, you can provide your public comment.
Thank you. I'll make this short because length is not a point of this. $500,000 that shows up on the consent agenda with 1 commissioner not in attendance is something to question. I'm wondering if there's a cap on the what can be approved in a consent agenda, or if the sky's the limit. So I guess that's all my public comment. Thanks.
Sure, thank you. Is there anyone else online who'd like to give public comment on this? Okay. Seeing none, closing public comment, bringing it back to the commissioners. Do you have any questions or thoughts?
I don't have any questions, but I will take this opportunity to ask Sarah to explain. Commissioner Willie mentioned earlier that this is something that's been in our CIP, which means it is already budgeted for and approved by the entire commission. Can you elaborate, Sarah, on the process for how and why we put those things for additional approval on our consent agenda?
Sure, I'd be glad to talk a little bit more about it. There are no requirements for a dollar amount limit for consent items. We've approved multi-million-dollar contracts on consent before, as long as they follow our finance policies and purchasing policies. And any member of the public and commissioners can pull an item off consent. So how we define consent is items that appear to be routine and have been a part of previous previous conversations, which this was discussed at our CIP.
And I would echo that, things that show up on our consent agenda with a significant budget item are ones that we have generally talked about exhaustively before they come to us. And of course, each of us as commissioners meets with staff weekly and can ask other questions to make sure that we have our comfort level before it comes to consent also. I would just, how many years has this likely been on our CIP? Usually it's about 5 or so.
I'll let Jimmy talk about it, and Chad's
Thank you, Jimmy.
available.
I believe this was first put on the consent agenda in 2021.
You mean the CIP?
I'm sorry, yes, CIP, I'm sorry, in 2021.
Can you hold it up, Jimmy? Is it?
Yes, this has been on since 2021, if I remember correctly. So 3 years now.
Thank you. So it's been approved every year since 2021 as part of our CIP.
Yeah, and we've saved some money by Public Works has been a huge help in this process, preparing the bid documents and those materials. So this has been a huge advantage to us to have the in-house engineering to help us with the project. Appreciate Chad and his teams for their work on this.
Thank you. Thank you both. I know those, they're eager to have those parking lot repairs finished. I would entertain a motion.
Thank you both. This is Commissioner Reed. I move to approve consent agenda item 1.2.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Brings us to general public comment. Is there anyone in the room who would like to give general public comment? This is for items that are not on today's agenda, but related to county business. Seeing none, Sarah, do we have anyone online?
I'm not seeing any hands raised online for public comment.
Okay. That will close general public comment and bring it back to our regular agenda. I believe we will start with Carl. We have a zoning and codes item.
Good evening, Commissioners. Before you tonight is an application, a special event permit application for a Halloween-themed event at 1387 East 1650 Road. So a little bit about special event permits first. Most of the special event permit applications that are submitted are approved administratively, but there are certain criteria in the zoning code that need to be met in order for those to be approved administratively. And some of those have to do with the hours, the number of attendees, how many days the event will be going on. And because this event goes for longer than 14 days, it requires a vote of the county commission. The specific event that you're considering tonight has come before you for the past 2 years and has been approved. So to give you an idea of the location, this is just down the road from where we are right now, 1387 East 1650 Road, which is an unincorporated address, but the property is entirely surrounded by the city limits of the city of Lawrence. Thus, it's considered a county island. The property is zoned AG2 on the southern 3 quarters and LI, light industrial, on the northern quarter. The property is used as a rental home and for agriculture. The property is also used as a seasonal fireworks stand. Surrounding land uses within the city of Lawrence include industrial, commercial retail, tractor supplies right over there, and residential. There's a city bus stop nearby, and then the county jail and the Lawrence Community Shelter are also nearby. This specific application is for a festival set to run between September 26th and November 3rd, consisting of 2 parts, a children's event during the day and a zombie paintball hunt in the evening. The children's part is set to run daily from 9 to 6 and will include a corn pool, slide, bounce houses, a train ride consisting of a diesel tractor, and a variety of other activities. There will be retail sales inside a tent, as well as some outdoor food vendors. The zombie paintball portion of the event is set to operate Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, plus the days leading up to Halloween from 6:30 to 11:30 p.m. And the zombie paintball event consists of a group of customers riding around on a trailer attached to a tractor. They're pulled to different scenes located on the property and shoot paintballs at actors dressed as zombies. There's some videos of that linked in the packet. The applicant has said that about 12 to 15 actors are to be hired, and the theme of the event is Ghost Town. This is the site of the town of Franklin, which was active during the Bleeding Kansas days. During the event last year, staff did not receive any complaints, and we haven't received any communications from the public ahead of tonight's meeting. This is a site plan submitted by the applicant. When we sent this out for agency review, we did get a comment from the fire department about the corn maze on the property. Now, we confirmed that the corn maze is a bounce house that looks like a corn maze and not an actual corn maze. The property isn't planted right now, but the fire department had some concerns about corn mazes in general, but we confirmed that it's a bounce house. And with that, staff is recommending approval with conditions. These conditions are similar to the conditions approved over the previous 2 years. And with that, I'm available for any questions, and the applicant is with us tonight as well.
Commissioner, do you have any initial questions? I do not. This will be your third pass through this application and my second. So with that, I would open this up for public comment, or I should actually ask, would the applicant like to say anything to add to our report? Okay. All right. So with that, is there any public comment from anyone here in the room with us for this item? And Sarah, do we have anyone online? Okay. Closing public comment, bring it back to the commission. Do you have any thoughts, questions, or motions?
Don't have any questions, and I'll just share a thought, reiterate what you said before. This is now the third year in a row this has happened, and I didn't notice any material changes, and I'm happy to hear that there hasn't been any complaints, and that it seems to be, I've started to hear about it, and people told me that they're excited about it coming around again. So sounds like it's a good annual event for the community. You have any further comments?
I do not.
I move to approve ZSCP 2024-0002, a special event permit request for Eric J. Garrett of Garrett's Entertainment LLC, doing business as Garrett's Haunted Farm, to allow, oh, I see that I think I read the wrong section. Let me scratch that. I'm sorry, I skipped down too far. I move to approve a special event permit to allow an outdoor Halloween-themed festival to operate daily, a zombie paintball hunt to operate Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings between September 26th and November 3rd, 2024, on the property located at 1387 East 1650 Road, with the conditions as listed in the staff memo.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Carl.
Brings us to our next item. And Sarah, will you start us off with this? This is about the stonework on the historic courthouse.
Actually, Jay's going to talk about this one. I may chime in with some comments, and then I'm going to talk about the treasurer's satellite. So I'll let Jay talk a little bit about it. You just, push the button and hold it up so you can.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jay Zimmershed, Director of Capital Projects, here to present a contract for construction for the above-grade masonry portion of the stone masonry restoration work on the courthouse. We are wrapping up the below-grade waterproofing. This, in fact, is a separate project, and it is to perform stone repointing, stone replacement where required. We're finding there's not as much of that as we had thought maybe there would be. And cleaning the stone, similar to the work that was performed in 2010, but only on a portion of the west elevation. So this project will clean everything again. So even the stuff that was cleaned in 2010 will be re-cleaned, so it basically all looks the same. But we would only be doing repointing and hopefully stone replacement on the remainder of the portions of the elevations that were not touched at that time. I think you'll notice in your package that we had some really favorable bids on this project. And with the initial project estimate being approximately total project budget of 3.2 million, with the bids that we had, they came in significant below what the architect's estimate was. In discussions with that group through the process of evaluating the bids that we received 5 bids, which is a great number. And all of those bids were within enough of a range that we believe all those bidding contractors were looking at the same thing. And so in evaluation of those bids and trying to decipher through why we were getting such great bids, we determined that there's a difference in stone masonry restoration work from high to low work. If you have to elevate a human to the stone to actually do that work, that is some of it. We believe timing was really excellent on the project in terms of a lot of stone masonry work, it appears, has been wrapping up. So the subcontractors that do this type of work were available and hungry for the work, and so they were bidding aggressively. And then also going through the process, the design architect on the project was very good about identifying small pieces and keeping the project one-dimensional in terms of only needing one subcontractor. So we were able to avoid multiple layers of contracting, those kind of things, which again allowed us to get a single bid from very specified specific contractors. So that's where we believe we are. It's a great thing, really. I'm very excited about having bids that close and frankly that low. So
Yeah, the only thing I'd add, commissioners, is, I started at Douglas County in 2010, just as the west elevation was wrapping up. And I remember talking in my first couple weeks about completing this project and getting the entire building exterior cleaned up, restored, any cracks, any issues repaired, and it's now 2024. So we've been thinking about this project for a long time, and I'm really excited that we can complete all of the exterior restoration of the courthouse.
Commissioner, do you have any specific questions? All right. Were there elements that we thought we would have to bid with this that then, on second thought didn't need to be done? I mean, I'm just looking for why the significant decrease.
So in working with the design consultant on the project, they did multiple drone flies of the building. That's how they see things up high. They did identify some flashing components, copper flashing components, and slate roofing. But at their recommendation, they said, hey, this would be something better that is done separate from the project to keep it clean. And our maintenance staff has been really great about contacting those vendors, those specific vendors, and getting those smaller pieces corrected. And so, yes, there were other pieces, but they've already been addressed basically as a separate, very much smaller, kind of component. So
I'd add too, the estimate was prepared in 2023, so it's almost 2 years old at this point. And also it was prepared as a standalone estimate, thinking that we'd have to do site work. And since we're still in the process of completing the below grade masonry repair, I think that probably cut a little bit off too, because they won't have to, they're not going to have to refix the site. So I think there were just some things the architect was putting in his estimate to be conservative, to make sure we came in under budget, that we haven't had to do. And then the contractor for this project was the contractor who worked on the north stairs. So we have experience with this contractor and feel really solid about their work.
All right. Any other questions before we go to public comment? Is there anyone here who would like to give public comment on this item? And Sarah, do we have anyone online?
We do.
Okay.
Melanie, I'm moving you into the panel to provide public comment. Melanie, you're in the panel and you can provide public comment.
Thank you. So less than 2 weeks after you commissioners heard an overflowing room of concerned citizens about the hoarding taxes and extreme spending, um, I just can't believe that you'll entertain another project of this magnitude, even though you got such a bargain. And I believe, hearing the comments that it was estimated really high, like 3.2 million, you got such a bargain. That seems to be a really common theme, and one that was pointed out 2 weeks ago over and over and over again. So I hope that that's all kind of making sense with what you heard 2 weeks ago on this project and some other projects. I'm wondering if you prioritize projects. So this year's tally, partial tally, is there others? But 1.5 million for the commission room remodel, 1.6 plus what we're going to hear in a few minutes for the county treasurer satellite office remodel, 76 million for the JLE and the public safety building, 5.5 just for the shell out, and you don't even know what you're going to use that building for. The other shelled out pieces, because you're getting such bargains for all of these components of the buildings. And then another 5.5 to complete phases 3 and 4. So as a concerned taxpayer, just wondering what's going on. I believe all the people in the room 2 weeks ago that this is what we're talking about. So I hope you can hear us. There seems to be an urgency to spend this money. These projects are coming very fast and furiously. And if you could just continue to hear us and be considerate, that would be appreciated. Thanks.
Thank you, Melanie. Sarah, do we have anyone else online?
We do not.
Okay, now I'm closing public comment, bringing it back to the commission. I would say, as I read through this item, and then we'll talk about the next item separately, it was significantly off. Like, that is highly unusual for projects that we have. And that's what asking some of the questions, like what pieces got released from the project that didn't then have to end up in this bid. But it is, I'm certainly glad it puts it into a realm of what I'm more comfortable spending for the project. So I'm glad for that. But it was, usually we bid things a lot closer than something like this. Another question would be, this also has been in our CIP for a very long time, which means.
Since 2010. I mean, this was a project we were talking about over 14 years ago.
And had set money aside for this project,
yes.
to be completed. So that does mean that we'll have money that will be turned back to our CIP from this project. So, another cash-funded project. Commissioner, do you have any thoughts or questions?
I do not.
Okay.
Happy to make a motion unless you've got further questions. I get to the right paragraph this time. Move to execute the attached AIA A101 standard form of agreement between owner and contractor with Restoration and Waterproofing Contractors, Inc., in the amount of $791,367 for above-grade stonemasonry restoration work to be performed at the historic Douglas County Courthouse.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. This brings us to our next item, and Sarah, you're going to take it, right?
Yeah, I'm going to kick it off, and Jay and Jimmy are here to talk more about the project if we need to. So I just want to, some background on this project. We currently have a treasurer satellite location in lease space that we're paying lease rates for on 31st Street. That space is not large enough to really expand and move folks that are currently working at the courthouse into that location. Some of the concerns identified about the desire on the treasurer's part to shift staff to a satellite location really come from work that we've been doing over the last 5 to 6 years on our downtown master plan, and also just some real accessibility issues about the historic courthouse. It's hard to access, parking is limited, and particularly as we've been under construction and will be under construction in the future, the treasurer has expressed a desire to really get a larger location where he can expand. So the commissioner set aside funds in our American Rescue Plan Act allocation for moving the treasurer's satellite location. Initially, we were looking at lease costs. And then as we began to really explore the marketplace, we began to really I think our preference would be to own the asset. Our experience with current or with other leased properties that we have is that not only are we paying an expensive lease amount, we have to make significant adjustments to the location that are expensive to make sure you have the desks and counters and rooms set up appropriately. That's all investment in an asset we do not own. And then our experience with the election satellite office is then current lease arrangements often require that the county pay for system repairs, so HVAC and other mechanical system repairs. So as we began to explore that with the treasurer and our facilities team, we began to look at places to buy. So the commissioners made the decision to purchase the property on 6th Street. We allocated additional funds out of our CIP to go along with our ARPA funds to renovate the project, to renovate the site. I would say this has been a learning experience for us. This is probably the first building in my 15 years really at the county that we have bought. We either renovate lease space or we build from the ground up. So I think there were some things we've learned in the process of estimating this project that we did not anticipate coming into the project. I think we estimated that some of the site utility work would be in place. And so as the project came underway, there were some additional expenses identified for the existing electrical service line to support the building. The building itself was not sprinkled, did not have fire suppression. So that requires additional information, additional water line, additional support in the building, and then also relocating a natural gas line. So, and fiber to the building as well. So all of those had led to us exceeding our original project budget. We're pretty close on this building. Our plan is to be in that building before the end of the year. I don't think we're completely out of the woods on this project yet, but we are wrapping up and we're coming back to the commissioners to ask for a little additional authority to help us complete this project. And staff has talked about how we can, if we purchase additional property in the future, how we can do a better job of making sure that we're dotting all our I's and crossing all our T's in terms of what is available at the existing site. But it really was residential grade construction. And so it's required a lot more renovation than we initially thought. But with that, ultimately, we feel very confident that this is a good investment and that, by saving the lease cost that we will be spending on 31st Street, we're putting these funds into an asset that we own. And if the county doesn't need it, it could sell at some point in time. So ultimately, this is a better investment for the taxpayer. And staff will continue to work to make sure that we do a better job as we're approaching these projects to make sure that we're on estimate. And we stand for any questions commissioners might have.
All right. It's a little easier having just underspent or on the item just before here by significantly more than what this is off by, but it's designed, the project is designed not to have overages that have to come back to us. And so I know you've already heard from Sarah about there's some lessons learned here, but I was really disappointed that we missed the mark on this. In the packet, it talked about that the overages is looking to be likely around 50,000, but the request is for 75. Can somebody address that for me?
Well, that is just so that we have a sufficient contingency for it, so that we have the ability. Generally, when we give you a project budget, there's a contingency amount in it. So we hope at 75,000, we will come in under budget on the project. So that's why we asked for the additional room and the budget and the project budget authority.
Tell me what we would be giving up if we didn't authorize this. Either one of you can take this.
Well, we won't be able to open the building, so that's the problem. We're at a point where if we don't increase the project budget, we're not able to complete the project.
So there are no aesthetics or other kind of things that wouldn't significantly hamper safety or functionality of the building?
Not that's not already purchased. Jay, if you've got something you want to add, you're certainly welcome to, but the overages on the project were associated with the site work.
Everything Sarah said is absolutely correct. If the additional funds were not approved, we would have to go through a series of investigations on what would remain acceptable for us to allow occupancy of the building through the authority having jurisdiction in the city. There are some investigations, and we've started those.
I'd say the biggest of which is the fire suppression system.
That's correct.
We're not required by code of this size of building and project to sprinkle the building. That was a choice that we made as staff, that we felt if we're a public building, we should sprinkle it, but it's not required by code. So if the commissioners do not approve this, I would probably not. But we've already laid pipe. So there'd be pipe in the building that would go unused.
Correct. And yes, correct.
I appreciate all the information. I think, and I discussed this with Sarah previously tonight, so I feel like my questions have been addressed about it and covered in the comments from Sarah and Jay. I think I agree, Commissioner Rowley, that it's disappointing to see an overage, and I still fundamentally believe that this is a really critical investment and a far better investment than, excuse me, relying on lease space sort of in perpetuity for satellite offices was really serving the organization or residents alike. So I think I'm comfortable with it, and I do appreciate that there are some processes that need to be tightened up. And to Sarah's point, this being the first building in more than a decade, maybe a couple decades, that has been purchased and retrofitted, it is a bit of a learning curve for folks that haven't done it in recent memory in this community. So I can appreciate that some mistakes were made, and that this amount is not extraordinary to me, and it's important to me that the project is done right. And I would agree that fire suppression is pretty critical for public buildings. So I think that it's important for staff to know what if and when we're speculating a future building that we want to retrofit, what is the very thorough checklist of making sure that we have considered all the things that we didn't know to consider before they came up in this project. And I appreciate that that's how things go sometimes, and best laid plans do not always pan out exactly. But I'm grateful that it's not a more significant increase. It's just some increase to the contingency to make sure we get it to the finish line.
This is unless you have any response to that, this is a public comment item. Is there anyone in the room who'd like to give public comment on this item? And is there anyone, Sarah, that we have online?
Melanie Kaufman has her hand raised. Melanie, I'm going to move you into the panel to provide public comment. Melanie, you're in the panel and you can come off mute and provide your public comment.
Thank you. I'm disappointed in the comments that, just because the $75,000 is not a significant amount, and when we're talking about 76 million on other projects, it's still significant to the taxpayers, and all of my former comments about the last project are still in effect. Came March 6th talking about this project, and there are people in the community who have retrofitted buildings before and have constructed projects or project managers in large places and do have the experience. And it's really disappointing that we're not listened to. Fire suppression is kind of a big thing for the county to have missed, but I guess overlooked that since you said you already laid the pipe. A gas line, fiber. I mean, those are big things that are usually taken care of before the walls are put back, before things are in place, and before the furnishings are there. So this is probably something that the commissioners probably need to ask more questions about. And then again, in March, there was a sense of urgency to get this money spent, get this building done, hurry up, get this done. I'm not sure that taxpayers really feel the same about their tax money. And as far as money being turned back to the CIP for the previous project, 2 weeks ago, we recommended that it be turned back to the taxpayer instead of for oopses like this. So, we're kind of getting more sensitive as these projects rack up, and we've seen 3 just tonight. So that's all my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah, do we have anyone else for public comment? Okay, closing public comment, bring it back to the commission. I toured the treasurer's offices when I first came onto the board a couple years ago. They are incredibly tight, so I do agree that the satellite is needed. The satellite we have that we're paying least price for is not a great investment and also can't be expanded. It's pretty tight there too. And moving away from lease space is a good use of dollars. I am very appreciative that there was a portion of the ARPA funds, the federal funds that were supporting this project. Those did need to be spent by the end of this year, but we're nowhere, we're having any trouble making that deadline. So not happy, not excited about it, but I recognize that this is the move, we move forward. Commissioner, any? No, go ahead.
I don't have any further comments. But I move to approve an additional $75,000 in project funding for the Douglas County Treasurer Office remodel project, bringing the total anticipated project budget to $1,678,275.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Project passes. Thank you. With that, we move to appointments. And I know we have a few in the works. I'm not sure if we have any finalized, especially without Commissioner Kelly here.
It's up to commissioners. We did receive 2 recommended Food Policy Council appointees. If you want to wait till Commissioner Kelly's back next week, we certainly can, or you can.
If you're okay with it, Commissioner Rowley, if we could wait, because I think I've missed those, so I'd like to review them first, and we'll wait till we have a full commission.
No problem.
And that works for me. And I know we have a conversation upcoming about an open position at Burt Nash. We have one application that came through. I've heard rumors of another one. I don't know that I've seen it yet. Maybe that's come across your desk.
I'll check with Robin. I haven't received any official submissions.
I will forward it to you because I know it
Great.
came across mine.
Okay.
So, good. Well, we will move forward with those when we have a full commission. Sarah, do you want to move to Commissioner or Administrator Miscellaneous? With your
Sure.
memo?
Commissioners, my memo is attached to the packet. I just want to point out that the 50-year celebration for DECA is scheduled for September 26th, and we can certainly register commissioners if they can attend that. So let us know if you can attend that. I think it'd be good for us to be there. We do have a judge's lunch coming up in early October, so we'll be talking to folks about that. Our work session, we will not have a work session next week. And I know we initially thought we would, but I think staff needs more time to work on that. So we have no work session scheduled for the 18th, but we will have one, I believe, on the 25th. And commissioners, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, do you have anything else to share? Nope. I do not either. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.